Love for you to text in, let us know what you did for Easter. Let us know what you think of our big headlines today. Our number, of course, 314-425-5355. You are our +1. I'm going to see you at the table. Today in St. Louis Plus starts right now. Well, good morning, everyone. So great to see you on Today in St. Louis Plus. I'm Michelle. We have Anthony and Paul, and my goodness, what a weekend. Lots of storms.
Yeah.
It's like I woke up, storms, went to bed, storms.
Yeah. Well, you weren't surprised by them because we told you all
we
week.
were
so,
not surprised. You did a very good job of keeping us in the know.
Yeah.
We did get through it.
I found myself up on the roof cleaning out a gutter during the rain.
Oh,
My wife watching,
did.
just like because it really just stopped up, and you're seeing it go over right in the middle. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You're like, wow, why is all this water
waterfall.
there? Yeah, and it really was cool. Once you get a little bit out, just flowing down.
I know the question that I have is, because my neighbor has not cleaned out their gutter. I don't want to say him, her, whatever. But because of that, we had to buy sandbags. And really, we just need to knock on the door and say, hey, you need help with your gutters?
That's the question of the day right there.
Yeah.
How do you tell your neighbor?
That dilemma.
Yeah, I know.
Most people probably say you do
know.
it, but it's hard.
Ooh, it is hard, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we would love to hear from you, whether it's our big headlines or weather or Easter, whatever it is, 314-425-5355. I will be glad when we have some calmer weather.
Yeah.
And you're saying it's around
Me
the
too.
corner.
I tell you, nothing like working long days and extra hours
I
just for
know.
some weather. But let me tell you, the good news with our storm that came through, we didn't have any major flooding.
Yeah,
So,
great.
Last time we had all that rain, and of course it made the Merrimack rise quite a bit. This go round, you may be wondering, and I put this together for you, all of our areas, our sensors at these specific towns near the Merrimack. And you can see from Stillville, Sullivan, Pacific, Eureka, Valley Park, Fenton, and Arnold, nowhere do we have major or moderate flooding. So that is the good news. A lot of places did receive 3 inches or less this go round, and so that allowed for the Merrimack to stay within minor flood stage. That's the yellow you see at the top. And whenever we're in minor flood stage, you don't have any major impacts. And so again, we're getting through the day today and tomorrow with a crest there, even on the Illinois side. Not expecting any major issues, but same deal being said for the Big River, the Bourbon, and the Kaskaskia, all expecting that crest in minor flood stage. So we did get through the weekend with, yes, some rain, some minor flooding, but nothing like we had a couple weeks ago with all of that 6 to 9 inches of rain. The color coding you see here, really from 44 into St. Louis and areas south, you see the yellow? That means upwards of 3 inches of rainfall. But a lot of places, you see all that green on the map, that's 3 inches or less, so that 1 to 3 inch range. But not the case out towards the Ozarks. That's where you see the colors really light up. That's where they had the worst severe weather. That's also where they had the worst flooding over the course of the weekend. And you see the storm reports turned on here. I mean, look at all these reports back towards central Missouri, down into western Missouri. Lots of hail and wind damage being reported there. A couple of tornadoes reported in Arkansas and even a couple in northern Illinois. But nowhere in our viewing area did we have tornadic touchdown or tornadic damage in our area. We did have some wind damage in Waterloo and Hecker. We've been reporting on that through the morning, and even down in St. Francis County near Farmington, some wind damage reported. But notice St. Louis, nothing. So we got through the storm without any major damage, aside from just little limbs or things like that that may have been broken off. No major trees or structures in our area were damaged, except for the ones I just pointed out. So we look at the satellite and radar, and you can see it's mostly cloudy overhead. The rain, that has moved away from us. That is out across the Ohio River Valley for now, but we are behind a cold front. And whenever we're behind the cold front right away, that's when we're going to be the coolest. And so today will be the coolest day. We move through the week with dry weather, and you see that coming in from the west, and that is going to be with us all, at least through Wednesday. I was noticing some folks out early this morning in Highland there. You see at the square, getting that early morning walk in. Cloud cover overhead, but at least we can get outside now and don't have to worry about rain today, tomorrow, or Wednesday. The clouds in O'Fallon, Illinois, same deal. Those will be clearing through the day, and also in downtown St. Louis. So cloudy to start, but also dry. So something to look forward to today. 56 out the door, winds are out of the west at 15, so a steady breeze, but that dew point is falling The dew point this time of year starts to measure the humidity, and you probably noticed that through the course of the weekend, and we're going to see that once again as we get towards Thursday and Friday with more rain. But you're headed out the door with 50s for the most part, all of our neighborhoods, and today's a decent day. Average high is 70, and we'll be right there this afternoon with the clouds clearing away. So finally, a chance to dry out for several days. I'll track the next round of rain for Thursday and Friday coming up. Let's track the traffic now and say good morning to Paul Cook. And Paul, it's been an easy drive this morning. I know there's a lot of grain on your map.
A lot of green, Anthony. That means you're moving at normal speeds. It also means you don't have a lot of volume and delays because we have sensors in the road calculating this at every second and tons of cameras. This report here gives me an opportunity. This whole thing, 5+ here at 7 to 8, gives me an opportunity to show you kind of a comprehensive view of what we're seeing out there right now. And I don't want to stand too much in the way. You're looking at the big map here and you can tell. So no major delays right now, but we will have them throughout the day and starting here pretty soon because of construction projects in Illinois and weather-related damage that we were dealing with in Illinois and Waterloo between there and Hecker. And, you know, looking at Anthony's maps as well in the high winds, you can see where these wires are down and cause 156 to be closed, especially going east. I have seen it go the other way a little bit, so we got to talk alternate routes, and that's going to be Floraville Road. No great options here, but that's the one to try to take if you're going to be heading in to Waterloo. If you're going the other way, take 3 if you can. So now we're moving a little bit further up here, just west of Edwardsville. You're going to have it at 255 and 111. That'll be tonight. You'll have lane closures there. And then one you haven't heard others talk about, it's in East Alton, just east of Alton here, right there at 143. You will also have construction and then the Blanchette. So now we moved over and we're in Missouri, St. Charles, Ameristar Casino, construction going eastbound on 70. That's happening with lane closures right now. So you got quite a few things happening. We'll go over it and let you know if there's any delays coming up, Michelle.
All right, thanks so much. Okay, so this morning, millions of people around the world are waking up to the news of Pope Francis's passing. So we learned overnight, probably around 3 a.m. this morning, that the Pope passed away just after Easter. This is a live look at Vatican City right now, where you can start to see large crowds building to pay their respects. Church bells rang across Rome after the news of his death was read out loud. And here is that online announcement from Vatican City. It says Francis has returned to the house of the Father. His entire life was dedicated to the service of the Lord and his church. Just 24 hours ago on Easter Sunday, Francis blessed thousands of people in St. Peter's Square. And we know in February, doctors diagnosed him with bilateral pneumonia. So he had pneumonia in both lungs. Francis suffered from chronic lung disease across his 88 years of life. He spent the last 12 years as head of the Catholic Church, really rattling the conservatives within it. The first Latin American pontiff was known for his humility and care for the poor. Our Mercedes McKay has been outside the Basilica in the central West End this morning, all morning long, and has been working overnight to gather more information as well. Mercedes, the news really came very sudden today after he wished everyone a happy Easter 24 hours ago. I know, though, when the Pope was sick, you started making contacts with the Archdiocese weeks ago.
Yeah, good morning, Michelle. That's exactly right. When the Pope became sick weeks ago, he was first hospitalized back in February. I was in contact with the Archdiocese of St. Louis just to see how they were going to handle all of this. Now, we do expect Archbishop Rozansky to make a statement to the community later today. The Archdiocese of St. Louis did tell me weeks ago that that statement would be primarily pastoral. Now, moments ago, we've seen reaction coming in overnight across the area. Moments ago, we received a statement from the bishop from the diocese in Springfield, Illinois. He says he is praying and mourns the loss of Pope Francis and said that Pope Francis was, quote, a witness of love. Now, really the question that remains, Michelle, is what comes next. So we actually have a graphic for you about the process to select the next Pope. There are currently 252 cardinals, and under current Vatican rules, only cardinals under the age of 80 are allowed to cast a vote for the Pope. After a Pope dies, the Vatican holds a conclave that typically lasts 15 to 20 days later. Now, during the conclave, the College of Cardinals are sequestered together, and they meet to select the new Pope. The cardinals vote by secret ballot, and the Pope's successor must receive 2/3 of the vote to be elected. Now, after each vote, the paper ballots are burned. If black smoke is seen, no decision has been made. And if the smoke is white, that means a new pope has been elected. Now, Michelle, you mentioned it earlier, but really overnight, I've been looking on X and just seeing the reaction from people across the country and the St. Louis area. And two of the things that keep sticking out to me as I'm reading through what the Pope is really being remembered for is his humble attitude and his concern for the poor. You know, a lot of the things that he did for the Catholic Church and the way he led the Catholic Church was really refreshing to some Catholics as he took a more progressive approach to things like the poor, like welcoming in the LGBTQ plus community. And we're going to see more reaction across the St. Louis area throughout the day and weeks to come. Michelle.
All right, thanks so much, Mercedes. Question for you, because, you know, as you were saying, Pope Francis was known to be more of a progressive voice, kind of rattling conservatives within the church. That makes this kind of speculation that a cardinal with St. Louis ties is potentially a possible front runner to be the next pope, you know, one of two Americans, you know, possible, because he is very conservative. So what can you tell us, Mercedes?
Yeah, so Michelle, this is actually something we were hearing about weeks ago when I was in discussion with the Archdiocese of St. Louis, when we didn't know how the Pope was doing. He was really sick at that time. So right now there's speculation that Cardinal Raymond Leo Burke, he was the Archbishop here in St. Louis from 2004 to 2008, could be one of the two American cardinals that are front runners to be the next pope. Now, this comes from a book that was released back in 2020 called The Next Pope. Cardinal Burke was one of 19 cardinals mentioned in that book that could be the next leader of the Catholic Church. And as you mentioned, this would be a stark contrast from Pope Francis. Pope Francis has been known for those more progressive values, where Cardinal Burke is very conservative. And actually, back in 2014, Pope Francis demoted Cardinal Burke. He had like a leadership position that was pretty high up, and he demoted him to more of a ceremonial role. And this was happening as Cardinal Burke was really outspoken, saying that the Catholic Church should not be giving communion to Catholic politicians who support abortion. So again, back in 2014, Pope Francis actually demoted Cardinal Burke. So definitely tensions between the two, and a very difference in how Cardinal Burke would lead the Catholic Church if elected. Again, this is all speculation, versus how Pope Francis led the Catholic Church over the last decade. Michelle?
We definitely remember those headlines.
Yeah. Oh, great work, Mercedes. Yes. You know, it is interesting to see this Pope being a little more progressive, even though he had some views that, you know, fell along conservative lines. He was seen as that way and was so popular. And with the church kind of dwindling as far as attendance goes, really all over, he kind of let people who felt a little bit like the church didn't welcome them anymore, he opened that up. I think that was pretty fascinating with his views. And finally, I think a lot of people felt like, I'm not going to have anything to do with church. He kind of opened it up more with his views, his
Maybe
progressive
brought some people
views.
back.
Yeah. And I wonder if that will continue. I don't almost think you can go back on that, you know, but I do wonder, like, I mean, he's a Christian leader, right? Not just the Pope. A Christian leader, and a lot of those views opened up just to everyone, you know. So this is a sad day. I think you're going to see a lot of people very sad throughout the day. The news hits us and it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
but there's going to be a lot of grieving going on, don't you think?
And I think maybe Mercedes is already clear from the live shot. But the thing
Don't you think?
Don't you think? You know, I do think it's interesting, because whether you are Catholic or not, whatever the Pope says has some sort of effect
Right.
on people in faith. So it could be, you know, if the Pope is progressive and says his acceptance of X, Y, and Z,
Yeah.
then that might open. Well, first of all, it garners headlines, right? So people start talking about it, but then it trickles down into what is being said in churches, in Mass. And so the acceptance, like you're talking about. And we do know, we do have numbers that people are moving away from church and religion, period, right? So
Yeah.
if there is an approach that brings people back into church, that is certainly something,
Yeah.
you know, I think that people will be considering. We've got maybe 10 to 15 days, I think Mercedes said, you know, for the conclave and all these things.
Yeah.
But I think it is really telling, because there's always an abundance of conservative voices in the
Yeah.
Catholic Church and in faith. So it would be interesting to see what will happen.
It will be
next.
very interesting to see,
Yeah.
and a lot of Catholics in St. Louis,
Yeah.
but practicing Catholics, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see. And he always said, who am I to judge?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what's interesting about that Pope, absolutely. And yeah, Mercedes was talking about what's happening next with
Yeah.
the choosing of the Pope, right? But what's next with all of this with our Pope? Pope Francis' body will be put on display in a coffin. Am I reading the right thing here? Coffin at St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican. Then the funeral will happen within the week. Like Mercedes was talking about the selection process then between 15 and 20 days after this day here, and the new Pope will be installed after that. And it's so interesting, not to say it's about movies, but you just saw the award-winning movie Conclave, which is going to be a huge thing. I bet we'll have a lot of people watching, and it's fascinating. And you know what? There's been 8 popes over the last century, right? Just 8. Pope Francis was elected in 2013, succeeded Pope Benedict, the first pope to resign in more than 600 years, and he passed later. Before Benedict, there was a 27-year period of Pope John Paul II, controversial. Before him, John Paul I was the pope for 33 days. He followed the 16-year pope of Pope Paul VI. Pope John Paul had a short but historic pontificate as well from 58 to 63. Before him was the 19-year reign of the World War II era Pope Pius XII, who came after the 17 years of Pope Pius XI. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
Little history
Yeah,
there. Very interesting, though. Very interesting. And, you know, this Pope was honored by our former President Biden. He was presented with the Presidential Medal of Freedom with distinction back in January. Biden, who is a devout Catholic, of course, said the Pope is, quote, a light of faith, hope, and love that shines brightly across the world.
You know, a lot of reaction coming down this morning, of course, because this is a sudden passing. And so I want to show you some of the tweets that have come. You just mentioned President Biden in the archive, but let's look at the royal family. The royal family said, this is the King's message following the death of Pope Francis. My wife and I were deeply saddened to learn of the death of Pope Francis. Our heavy hearts have been somewhat eased, however, to know that His Holiness was able to share an Easter greeting with the church and the world he served with such devotion throughout his life and ministry. Let's try to go through another one. You know, actually, this was headlines because Vice President J.D. Vance just met the Pope. Oh my goodness, yes. So the timing of that, and this is a post from the White House, and let me see if I've got another one, maybe. Well, I think those are probably the big ones here. But as you mentioned, President Biden, former President Biden, was also a devout Catholic, is a devout Catholic. So he has posted stuff as well. So yeah, lots to talk about this morning. And of course, this is going to be the big story of the day and probably for a couple of weeks, as we have been mentioning. Let's get on over to Anthony Slaughter, of course, keeping an eye on our weather for us and our weather impact.
Good morning, guys. So not, great news to deliver this morning. Obviously, when anybody passes away, it's just heartbreaking. Of course, you have the leader of the Catholic Church right after Easter. I mean, how all of us probably just celebrated Easter, right? So, yeah, heavy hearts for today. As far as our weather forecast goes, it is going to be a bright day after the clouds clear away this morning. 71 the expected high later on in St. Louis today. So a decent day. 70 is actually our average for this time of year. So we're right where we should be when it comes to temperatures. In fact, we're going to be drying out the next few days, but also warming up each and every day through Wednesday and through Thursday. But on Thursday, that's our next chance of rain. We'll also have an uptick in humidity. You may have noticed that this weekend with all the rain. Yeah, we're getting to that more tropical spring-like atmosphere where we're looking at those colder days kind of going behind us, and now warmth and humidity, which of course means thunderstorm development. We go into the weekend though with some dry weather, turning just a touch cooler though with 60s for highs. But this week, beautiful weather finally, as it looks like spring is here and maybe here to stay. I do not see any indications of frost or freeze or even snow in our future. And once we get to the middle of May, we're really done with it. So we're getting closer to that time frame. 70s through the course of the week, even 80s possible on Thursday. And then behind the front on Friday, we're still decent with 70s for highs. So not a bad week ahead of weather. In fact, the temperature outlook all the way through May 4th shows that not only are we above average, but the deep red means that we're way above average. And as mentioned, that average high is 70. So we're going to surpass that through the course of the next couple of weeks. With that being said, as mentioned, the humidity, yes, we're going to start to see that climb too. Wednesday, we're still comfortable, but Thursday and Friday, we go into that humid category. And well, you know, that means just that uptick in dew point temperatures, which is that measure of moisture in the atmosphere. So once we get the higher dew points, that's usually when we get the higher temperatures and when we get thunderstorm development. So until Thursday, we should have dry weather to look forward to. Today, the clouds will clear. Will be a little bit breezy through the day, but no rain coming. Warm sunshine for Tuesday, and then as mentioned on Wednesday, especially Wednesday night, you see all the thunderstorms that start to dot the map. So our chances of rain will increase as our high temperatures increase and those dew points increase as well. Thursday, Friday, that's the time frame to watch for rain. Until then, we'll have dry weather. 71 today, 76 tomorrow. The weekend is nice, putting that in view for you. 60s on the way, but you know, not too bad for this time of year. 60s and, you know, dry weather. I think we'll take it after such an active March. And now here we are, almost done with April. All right, let's get back over to Paul and get a check of our traffic. Seems like we've been easy breezy this morning, Paul.
Great way to say it, my friend. Easy breezy. But then you might say, watching here, thanks a lot for switching over to the 5 Plus app, you might say, prove it. Prove it, Paul. Well, let's do it right now. We're looking at the quad box, and you can see it on the screen. We're going everywhere here. Upper left, you are in Jefferson County. What about the lower right, Wentzville? I mean, it's this way everywhere, but I'll tell you what, a lot of drivers endured some terrible traffic, maybe headed back to Mizzou yesterday. Really bad stuff. I know my daughter was among that group that was heading back after Easter, after the celebrations, and going right through big storms. And we talked about it earlier, the damage. There was some damage there in Columbia. Speaking of, now we're looking at the big map, and it just gives us opportunity to take a look at the damage and the road closure that is happening right now in Waterloo, Illinois. So we are about 9.5 miles south here of Columbia, and that 156 is closed. So if you can, take Floraville to get around it. That's the move. Okay, yeah, I brought up, of course, I had to bring up the Pope show. What was it called? I don't know. Conclave, thank you. And now I got to bring up another one because that's my default mode. Shows.
Oh, okay.
Shows.
All right.
Yes.
We're in the 7th season of a show called Black Mirror on Netflix.
Yes.
7th season, right? This show will blow your mind, maybe make you feel weird too. And this season, you've seen the season real quick. I want to hear about it, but yes or no? Good?
Yes.
And one of the episodes in the 7th season right now, and by the way, this has had some huge stars, right? Miley Cyrus, just constantly a new star.
Yes.
And every episode is its own little accompanied
It's
season.
like the Twilight Zone, but
Yeah.
the modern Twilight
For
Zone.
the future.
Great call. And it's about the future, maybe not too distant future, but they have changed episodes on people. And with Netflix, little things in that episode are different for some viewers. So you're
What?
sharing the thing about, I can't believe the little robot girl walked in there. And then your friend is like, what robot girl walking in there? You know what I mean? So it's making people feel a little weird.
So there's different scenarios
versions?
unfolding
Great point.
within the episodes?
Yeah, more details than scenarios.
Ah.
So it's not quite like, oh, it didn't end that way, like choose your own adventure, but there's little things, and people are like, what the heck are they doing? I love it because the show automatically makes you think, right?
Yeah.
This one's going to make you think. Maybe you need to go to your friend's Netflix and watch that.
Oh, wow.
So are they reading the algorithm of what we're watching and changing it based on that, or is it
I'd
just
say
I think
maybe
they
just
just
a
did two
percent.
versions, right?
Yeah.
Is that my impression?
What did you think of the season?
Oh, wow.
Well, I've seen every episode. I thought it was great. However, I will say this. I've seen all the other seasons, and I thought those were way better.
Oh,
Okay.
So this
really?
one was like,
Okay.
But
Okay.
it's kind of like, you know, what is that, the cost benefit factor where you taste something once and it's great, but then you taste it again, it's like, okay.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of like, well, we've seen 7 seasons, so it's like, you know.
I mean, 7
how
seasons.
many new things can they do? But
Yeah.
I will say this. There is an episode with Issa Rae.
Yeah.
She
I
kind
saw
of goes
it.
back in time.
I loved it.
Oh, that one
In
was
this
really
season?
good. Yeah. So
Oh
when you
my
get there,
gosh.
maybe we'll talk about it
Yeah.
and see if that applies to this.
Yeah.
So I just want to say I never watch TV. Like I just don't. This is the season in my life where I'm not watching TV. And I got hooked on Black Mirror, you know, and I was like, oh wait, this is a new season, you know.
Yeah.
What was the first episode you saw that got you hooked?
Was it Rashida?
Ooh,
Jones?
This
Or-
season it was
This
the one
season.
with Rashida Jones.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Trying to
yeah.
get
So I've
pregnant?
gotten up. I think
Yeah.
I've gotten through like 5 or 6 episodes. But the Issa Rae episode was great too.
I can't know
right.
what episode this was, maybe first or second season, but there's guys playing a video game and they put this thing in the back of his head. And
Oh,
he gets
yeah,
stuck in the video game, but he doesn't know he's stuck.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that one was chilling. He's like in a haunted house, and it's not meant to be haunted,
Yeah,
but you know.
it's-
Wow.
Anyways,
Oh,
we're Black
we can
Mirror
talk
fans.
about that. Yeah, it's so
Yeah,
good.
we got to talk about this. All right.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, everyone, but keep it right here on 5 Plus. At 6:26, we're going to have a quick update on weather and traffic.
7:26.
Did I say 6? Well, you know what? Just
been
keep
on
it
for a
here.
while.
We've been up
we'll
for a
make
long
it real
time.
easy for you, okay? We'll see you back here on the flip side.
It's live.
Not directly on TV was the fact that that's when we had some of the snow-covered roads.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Mary with Extra Dusty.
Welcome to Faves, where KSDK reporters get to talk about their favorite stories.
You can't make this stuff up. So, look, I think the idea of
And welcome to 5 Plus News Flash, an express look at the day's top stories and interviews.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Michelle and the Money.
And we're looking back at some of our favorite stories this past year.
And welcome to our 25th anniversary special of the greatest show on turf. We got a lot to talk about. I'm Nick Cusimano, and join us for Sports Plus Final Cut tonight.
I'll probably come on right after 10 o'clock. I do want to use the snowblower. I gotta be honest with you. I'm really excited to use the snowblower. It never gets used anymore.
We learned that Pope Francis had died at the age of 88. Just yesterday, he made a public appearance greeting worshipers on Easter Sunday at the Vatican. Our Mercedes McKay is at the Cathedral Basilica with what comes next for the Catholic Church.
I'm Mercedes McKay at the Cathedral Basilica, and this morning we're waiting for remarks from St. Louis Archbishop Rozansky on the death of Pope Francis. We do know the Archbishop's message will be primarily pastoral. There's also speculation that Cardinal Raymond Leo Burke, who led the Archdiocese of St. Louis from 2004 to 2008, could be one of 2 Americans who are possible frontrunners to be the next head of the Catholic Church. Back to you in studio.
This morning, some roads are closed in Monroe County, Illinois, because of downed trees and snapped power poles. Storms swept through that area yesterday evening. And a reminder, if you see a downed power line, do not touch it. Instead, call Ameren, Illinois at 1-800-755-5000.
Okay, yeah, those roads definitely dangerous and closed there. 156 going into the entire area there of Hecker on into Waterloo. So that's an area that you're going to need an alternate route called Floraville. This is the big kind of view of a quad box of volume out there, and you can tell in every area. Jefferson County, you are moving so well. And just a real quick at the big map, I wanted you to see that, and we'll be showing it to you right now.
This morning we are taking you back out live to Vatican City, where we have learned overnight that Pope Francis has died. This is a world headline this morning, and really just within the last few hours, world leaders now are starting to wake up to this news, including those at the White House. Multiple tributes within the last hour or so from the Vatican, remembering him as a pontiff of peace and a global leader, connecting with people across 68 countries during his time as Pope. Now, before being elected as Pope back in 2013, he served as Archbishop of Buenos Aires and was made a cardinal by Pope John Paul II. As Mark Barger reports, from the beginning, Pope Francis had a touch for the people.
Cardinal Jorge Mario Bergoglio was elected Pope when Pope Benedict abruptly resigned in 2013. Bergoglio chose the name Francis after Saint Francis of Assisi, known for his poverty and humility. Francis was the first pope to come from Latin America and the first to take the name Francis. In his opening appearance as pope, he asked that people pray for him. Francis became the leader of an estimated 1.2 billion Roman Catholics at a time of a number of conflicts for the church, a sex abuse scandal, a financial scandal in the Vatican Bank, and conflicts over the issues of abortion, homosexuality, and the role of women in the church. Within days of beginning his papacy, Francis made choices that revealed he would be a different kind of pope. He shunned the regal garments and trappings of previous popes, he paid his own hotel bill in person, and he chose to live in a modest apartment instead of the lavish papal residence. It was clear from the start that Francis loved interacting. He kissed children, wore hats from the crowd, and posed for pictures. Within the first year of his papacy, he apologized to victims of sexual abuse by priests and set up a committee that included lay people to investigate sex crimes by priests. The wave of sexual abuse scandals within the church proved to be the greatest crisis of Francis' tenure. In 2015, he was criticized for supporting a Chilean bishop who was accused of covering up sex crimes against minors. Francis later admitted mishandling the situation and asked for forgiveness. Another abuse bombshell rocked the Catholic Church in 2018. A scathing grand jury report detailed decades of sexual abuses by priests in Pennsylvania. The Vatican condemned the abuse as criminally and morally reprehensible and said Pope Francis was on the side of the victims. Through it all, Francis maintained his reputation as a reformer. He set up a hand-picked committee of 8 cardinals to discuss reforming the Vatican bureaucracy. He made headlines for his apparent acceptance of homosexuality and for warning about the dangers of climate change. Pope Francis also played a key role in the talks to restore full diplomatic relations between the U.S. and Cuba in 2014. He also spoke frequently about the importance of women in the Catholic Church and changed the Church's stance on the death penalty, declaring it unacceptable in all cases. Having had part of one lung removed as a young man, Francis had long battled health problems, especially bouts of acute bronchitis in winter. In recent years, he had been using a wheelchair, walker, or cane when moving around his apartment. Mark Barker, NBC News.
Kind of a shock. He was expected to have full recovery from this, and then all of a sudden we look around at 3 o'clock, we're like, wow, the Pope passed away.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Lots of controversy for such a traditional thing that's been around for 1,000 years. He was in the news a lot there, and we'll have a lot more on it coming up. Absolutely. Here in St. Louis, though, take a look at this. Several large sinkholes. You don't want to be over one of these. They popped up over the last few days here in St. Louis. We reported first on Friday. This sinkhole in the Carr Square neighborhood. Look at that. And yeah, city officials say they believe it could be caused by a sewer issue. And then the Metropolitan Sewer District says they're investigating, not quite sure. But our Annie Kroll talked with neighbors that are worried sinkholes could continue to grow.
Never seen nothing like it in STL, so it looked pretty deep, so it's going to take some work.
That's what people are seeing on Cass Avenue, walking past the 20 feet deep by 15 feet wide sinkhole.
Danger, like it's a big, deep hole. Like I'm glad no one was standing there when it went there.
MSD spokesperson Bess McCoy saying on Sunday a crew is still investigating the cave-in and to what extent repairs need to be done.
It is a time of year where any underground infrastructure is under a lot of additional pressure. Additional rain doesn't help, things thawing out, that can kind of change soil conditions. And again, we're dealing with infrastructure that's over 100 years old in these areas.
Repairing infrastructure remains a major issue for the new mayoral office and city aldermen like Rasheen Aldridge in the 14th Ward.
It's a very high dense residency neighborhood. So, you know, my fear is how far is this sinkhole going to continue to go?
About 2.5 miles away, a similar but smaller scene on Park Avenue. It's a
big hole. It's scary. It's scary.
Since Thursday, things have changed drastically, according to neighbor Leslie Hargrove.
That hole right there, it started off little, and then it started off like this. And that's scaring me.
With all of Sunday's rain,
they said this is going to get bigger and stuff.
I am praying, especially would have been Easter Sunday. And, when this happened was on Good Friday and no one got hurt, that, the sinkhole continued to just kind of stay in place to MSD to figure out exactly, how do they fix it.
We have a list of already qualified contractors. It's just a matter of getting someone who is capable, has the staffing right now, and can expedite this as quickly as we need it expedited.
Annie Crawl, 5 on your side.
That is terrible. MSD says they will continue to work with contractors, though, to kind of determine the timeline to get it fixed. Absolutely
Get
needed.
it fixed yesterday.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, what kind of investment has been in that community anyway?
Right.
Let's talk about that.
Oh,
It's a whole other
absolutely.
issue.
For years,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and of course, that happens on Easter Sunday when, you try to call somebody in. It's a holiday. What are you going to do? So,
Well, honestly,
hopefully.
everyone's lucky that no one got hurt.
Oh,
That
absolutely.
is so deep,
Well, even the folks standing near it, assessing it at the time, it's like, well, we don't know what other part of the road is
I mean,
going
if
to
you
give.
look, it looks like you could fall. I don't say that as a reporter, like you're trying to be like, hey, look, you could fall right in.
Yeah.
It's so weak that it looks like a movie.
Well, and honestly, because we've also seen, several pop up, it's like I would be afraid to go anywhere.
I know.
And Rennie showed me a picture of another, part of a neighborhood where the road is bubbling. So so people already don't want to cross that road. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and then to see
I
how
hope they
deep
figure it
the sediment was from the actual asphalt.
Yes.
I mean, that was like
under that.
Yeah, it was like there was no support for the road at all.
That's
So,
just right. That's it.
you got to get MSD on that.
Get on it.
Somebody.
Somebody, anybody.
That's where you start, though.
All right.
That area.
Yeah.
Get it
So
going.
let's keep this going with weather talk, because obviously with the rain we've had, sinkholes, things like that happen. But, we had a lot of severe weather across the country. The same system that moved through our area, well, it produced a lot of damage across parts of Columbia, Missouri. This is video from that part of the state where a recycling center was damaged, and you see all of the insulation thrown about and the twisted wires and metal. So if there was a tornado, the National Weather Service crews will be out assessing that particular storm. And there was even more across parts of southwestern Missouri. And then these storms actually turned deadly here. Take a look at this new video we're getting in this morning as a car is jammed under a bridge due to the flowing water there.
Oh my gosh.
Unfortunately, 2 people did die and 3 others were rescued. We always talk about flooding being the big number taking lives each and every year. Thousands of homes and businesses were also destroyed, and many spent Easter cleaning up debris. And finally, several tornadoes were reported in Texas, this just outside of Dallas-Fort Worth. The reported tornadoes actually caused downed trees, power lines, missing and mangled trailers and equipment, damaged homes and barns. The National Weather Service is expected to conduct damage surveys to determine the path and the strength of tornadoes there as well.
Oh my gosh.
We always talk about these storms, and give you the heads up, but thankfully we did not have tornadoes in our area. And the issues that we did have were pretty minor. I mean, just a handful. I mean, you could count them on one hand. So thankfully it was nothing like 314 day, the Good Friday tornado from 14 years ago. So we got through Easter with just, again, minor issues. And so now we're getting past that and over this one little hump, and hopefully, severe weather's not in our future this week.
And
That's
you
good.
were warning us about it,
Oh,
so
yeah.
we were
Yeah,
ready.
yeah.
But there's nothing like, waking up at, because, naturally I wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and I'm like, is that thunder? Is that lightning?
Oh,
my gosh,
man.
like,
Yeah, when you first started to get these
Yeah.
first thunderstorms of spring, you remember just how loud thunder is.
Yes.
And I mean, all weekend it was like you sleep and then boom, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
my goodness.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I'm up now. Okay,
Yes.
let's go.
Good
You know,
morning.
yeah.
Yeah, all right. So no severe weather this week.
Okay.
I just want to say that again.
All right.
We're finally getting a break. I think we're getting to that time of year where the severe storms become less and less, but also the heavy rain potential just doesn't go away. So unfortunately, we do have some rain Thursday and Friday, but right now, let's just kind of live in the now. It is Monday, so let's just take a break to reset and to kind of recap, because the weather alerts, sometimes it just seems like, oh, here we go again. I didn't even have a chance to catch my breath, and then we're already in the next one. So as far as that goes, again, today, tomorrow, Wednesday, dry weather to look forward to. I do want to recap the storm reports, because you can see, again, the handful of storm reports that were in our area. A lot of the worst of the weather was west and north of us. Even across Arkansas yesterday, there were 2 tornadoes reported, and even in northern Illinois. So we did catch a break from the worst of the storms. There you can see the handful of reports down in St. Francis County. Those are trees snapped and wind damage. And also in Hecker and Waterloo, a lot of power poles were snapped there, so wind damage reported reported. Gusts top 65 miles per hour in that part of our viewing area, but nothing in St. Louis aside from just some minor limbs here and there, and even flooding was not a major concern over the weekend. You see the color code at the top of the screen. 1 to 3 inches is the green to yellow, and we did have some spots that got that right along that 44 corridor from Rolla into Washington, Crawford County, even down into Franklin and Jefferson County. And you look back towards the Ozarks and Springfield, that's where they really got 6 inches plus and a lot of storms there. And as mentioned, that's where they had the worst of the storm reports too. So we're finally getting a chance to dry out. We're on the back end of the cold front. So today will be the coolest day of the next several days through the week, but our temperatures will be climbing and we've got dry weather to our west to look forward to. So we'll be watching that as it comes on in. High pressure will clear away the clouds later today, and tomorrow and Wednesday will be really nice, just turning a little bit warmer. And as mentioned, that uptick in humidity. But the clouds, those are certainly prevalent across both Missouri and Illinois this morning. Number-wise, not bad. You don't need the heavy winter coat. You can probably just head out the door with a sweatshirt of sorts. Low 50s for St. Charles County, 55 in Edwardsville and Belleville. You're at 57 this morning. So we'll go through the day with clouds clearing. Today we'll get up to 71 degrees with some afternoon sun. And as mentioned, it looks like spring is here and here to stay. Warm temperatures this week. The average is 70, and we're surpassing that each and every day. Next chance of rain and storms develop on Thursday, and I will talk about that coming up in less than 15 minutes. Let's get over to Paul once again and track our traffic and see what's happening on the roadways. Paul, what's up?
All right, Anthony. Yeah, let me show you here real quick. I wanted to get a picture up because you see the 9 miles an hour, the 15 miles an hour there. That is on 6440 as you'll be going westbound. Maybe you work in, let's just say, Clayton, and you're coming a little bit further from the city. That's where you're going to see that delay. And I want to go back to it here real quick. Well, maybe I think I can go forward to it. Yeah, here we go. And then on the far left side of your screen, that's the construction. 6440 at 270. Those ramps going north-south. They are not great, right? So you know you're going to back up onto the highway. You could back up onto 40 even further on those westbound lanes. I talk with a lot of people every morning that get kind of stuck in that area, and this is just really bad. That's the area that there's heavy traffic this morning. That's it right now. I mean, I've been waiting, and we didn't have it when we went off the air there to come over to 5+ here. We were just fine, and now during this show, you are seeing some delays. You also see some purple. That's, of course, 255. We know about that in Cahokia Heights, and you just want to avoid that. Take Route 3 or 157. But what about what's been happening here in Waterloo, as Anthony was talking about in Hecker as well? You could tell that road is closed. Going eastbound here on 156, you've got to find another route if you maybe work just to the east of Waterloo. How do you get in there? It's really got to be Floraville, which is not a great road. Some parts are almost a blacktop, but that's the way to take an alternate route on in there. And we have other construction we've been talking about to begin the morning, and it happens starting tonight at 9 o'clock. Maybe you're going somewhere to watch the Blues tonight, and you're in Illinois and maybe coming from Edwardsville. Make sure you know ramps are going to be closed here throughout the next week, and that would be this time on 111 going to 270 or 255 eastbound. That ramp's going to be totally closed. You have to pass it up and find an alternate route, and we will help you do that the next time we talk in just a few minutes, Michelle.
All right, thanks so much, Paul. Okay, so a first-of-its-kind summit is happening in St. Louis to raise awareness about health disparities, specifically to Asian Americans. And Jamie Courier with the American Cancer Society is here to explain why this is needed. First of all, thank you for getting up with us this morning. Really appreciate it. I think this is interesting because the American Cancer Society put out these new findings, right? And it really sounded the alarm for Asian Americans. Can you talk about some of the findings specifically as they relate to cancer being the leading cause of death in some Asian Americans?
So as a breast cancer survivor, I shouldn't have been shocked to see that breast cancer is the leading cause of death for women across every AA-NHPI ethnic group. For men, it's prostate cancer. But when you look at kind of the survival rates for the cancers that we are diagnosed with compared to white counterparts, that's where we see the huge differences. 30% difference in mortality rate for breast cancer. Oh gosh, what was my other one? And then,
go ahead. Well, I was going to say liver cancer deaths, right, and stomach cancers are very high in Asian American communities.
2.5 to 3-fold.
Okay.
So,
oh my gosh. And it is different also. You said AANHPI, just in case people don't know. Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander.
Yes.
So what do we know about the NHPI community? They face different, even different statistics.
Absolutely. And honestly, the cancer facts and figures, we were excited to get it because a lot of times AANHPI, the data is kind of aggregated together. But this report actually disaggregates the data so that we can actually look specifically at Native Hawaiian, Asian American, South Asian, because we are a vast diaspora. So when you look at the data aggregated, we lose a lot of the differences in our cancer incident and rate. But the one thing that's glaring about the report is Asian Americans do not get screening at the same level as our counterparts.
And why is that? Is that cultural or?
You know, I'm hoping we can find some of that out at the summit by having conversations with organizations and leaders of those organizations to try and figure out why are we screening at a 16% less rate? Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, so you mentioned because you are a breast cancer survivor, this is very personal for you as well. Were you shocked? You said you weren't shocked, right? But it's still, were you surprised at all by any of the numbers to learn, learn the new data? I think that one thing, I'm going off track here a little bit, is that there's so little data to begin with on Asian Americans, and because the diaspora is so big, we are all clumped in together. Now there's a conversation even about diversity in healthcare, should it be studied? I mean, that's a whole other issue. But what surprised you when you looked at this new report?
Survival rates. Like, I am a breast cancer survivor, so in my head, I'm like, we survive. But when I looked at the cancer facts and figures, the report says something a little bit different. And that's why I was like, oh my gosh, we need to sound the alarm on this. We need to see if we can increase the screening rates, so then hopefully when the cancer is found, it's not at a stage that impacts the overall survivability.
One thing I think is also interesting as an adoptee, and you are an adoptee, if I can share that, right?
Yes.
And we have a lot of adoptees in this summit who are organizing this, is that, I will say, as an Asian American, I didn't know if I technically qualified as an Asian American in studies because I think, well, I'm not eating an Asian American diet. I didn't grow up in an Asian American household. Am I considered Asian American? But turns out our biology says something different, correct?
Yeah, we may say we're fake Asians or Phasians, as I like to say. But no, our DNA, absolutely. I mean, and especially being diagnosed with breast cancer at 29, I just realized that we really need to be a lot more proactive with advocating for ourselves.
Right. And so, okay, tell us a little bit about the summit. What is on tap for the summit?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. We're bringing in our principal scientist who did the research for the cancer facts and figures. She's coming in from Georgia. And then we have a panel of amazing doctors in the St. Louis area that are going to be talking about just their experiences personally and professionally.
And it is groundbreaking. That's what's really exciting.
It does seem like this might be the first time we've kind of gathered all AANHPI. Now, I think we've gathered for other reasons, mental health. I think there were some really amazing things happening during COVID. But in terms of looking generally at our health and then specifically cancer screening, this might be the first one.
Yeah,
so,
it is the first one. I'm certain of it.
Very exciting.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the work that you do, and your inspiration really kicked this whole summit into gear. So it's incredible. Registration is still open, right?
Yes, yes.
So we'll post a link on ksdk.com to let everyone know if they can register. And also I want to say, we have people who are mixed, who are multiracial families, right? So Kate Appleton is a breast radiologist.
Yes.
She is a white woman,
Yeah.
but her daughter is multiracial Asian. And she was like, that's the one thing, her daughter doesn't present as an Asian person, but she still has this biology. So she's very fascinating for the work that she does, but also she's going to bring a uniqueness to it. I think there are a lot of families out there like that.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it, Jamie.
Thank you so much.
All right.
All right.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Paul. I'm going to toss it over to you.
Yeah, eye-opening chat there, though. Thank you so much. Happening today, something to remember, and it's really important. You can safely drop off your unwanted prescription drugs at several SSM health hospitals. They are holding a take-back drive today through Sunday, and I participated in quite a few of these, and they are so important because the medicine you leave in your cabinet might get sampled by a kid, somebody just visiting, looking through it. You got to get rid of that stuff because that can really cause major harm. Disposal is free. It's anonymous. No screening or check-in is required. Last year, SSM collected more than 1,000 pounds of expired and unused meds here in the St. Louis area. A lot of police there as well. If you're thinking about a heist or something, a lot of police said they are really the ones that put this on. And later this week, Arnold and Hazelwood police departments are holding their own drug take back. You can drop off unwanted drugs there in the Arnold City Hall lobby Saturday from 10 to 2. It truly is the right thing to do. You know, even just flushing them can be harmful there to pipes and things like that. Hazelwood officers are going to be in front of that City Hall complex same time, same day. Illicit drugs, needles, and vape pens are not going to be allowed for this. So that's something to think about as well. It's really for the pills. That's the way to go here. Okay, let's see how we are moving out there. Hopefully we have nice sunny days for those drug take backs. What's going on right now?
All right, let's talk about our weather, shall we? And yes, we are moving just fine. No rain out the door this morning, Paul. So as you get going, just maybe a light jacket or sweatshirt, but our numbers are going to be climbing. Been looking at the long range models because it looks like spring may be here and here to stay. I know a lot of folks that like to get in the garden and do a little sprucing up in the yard. Worry about planting this time of year where I have not seen any frost, no freeze in our future, and that gets us all the way into May. So we're warming up this week. Even today we'll be up near 70, and on Thursday we'll be near 80. Now, as far as the next 14 days go, this gets us through May 4th, and you can see how much of the country is going to be above average when it comes to the temperatures, and that deep red you see across the eastern third of the country, that's way above average. So again, we're headed in the opposite direction when it comes to frost and freeze. As far as that goes, though, whenever we get warm, we get humid, and by Thursday and Friday you're going to notice an uptick in that humidity, all because rain is coming on back with these warm temperatures too. So Thursday and Friday we'll have scattered rounds of rain, but nothing severe this go round. 71 for the high today. 82 on Thursday. That's when storms develop, and they'll be spotty through Friday. The weekend's nice, just cooler, sunny with 60s. All right, let's get back over to Paul and get an update on our traffic. Hey, Paul.
All right, Anthony, thank you very much. Yeah, we were talking about the big delay here. This is on 6440 going westbound, right approaching the Interbelt. Maybe it's the routes to Clayton or even a little bit further in West County, but those speeds are not optimal, and that is live. That's exactly what we're dealing with out there right now. You look at the big map, you can tell we're moving pretty well. We also were talking about construction there at 255 and 111 in Illinois, just to the east of Edwardsville. That's tonight on those ramps. Take 111 to St. Charles, to the Chain of Rocks Road. That's what it is. That's the alternate route if you're in that area. So something to think about. Let's go back over to Michelle right now.
Okay, something I've been thinking about is Easter Sunday and the meal that I had. The ham, the potatoes, the glazed carrots, and how about the desserts? Because Cindy, one of our loyal viewers, sent in her dessert tray. What do you think that is? That's like white chocolate maybe with some M&Ms and some pretzels. Oh, looks so good.
Jelly beans?
So yeah, thank you, Cindy, for sending that in. And then I wanted to show one more because I want to give a shout out to this guy, Mike. He took us on a little journey. I give you extra credit if you know what these things are, huh?
Those are Christmas cookies.
No!
Oh, mushrooms.
What kind of mushrooms?
Morel.
Morel mushrooms. Yes, so we're going to be showing
hunting season.
you. Yes, it is hunting season. And a lot of people, Anthony, are wondering if this rain that we had is going to kick in high gear for the morel mushroom hunters.
I would
We're
say
going to be bringing that story to you later this week.
Okay. And those are delicious, right?
Oh my God,
People
the
love
best
them.
thing I've ever eaten.
But also be very careful if you have never hunted for mushrooms.
Why?
And you're just going to go out and just try some mushrooms, because a lot of them are poisonous and deadly.
The red morels.
So you got to
will give
know
you the
what you're
bubble guts.
doing. So hopefully that guy helps you.
Did you hear what I said?
Yes.
We'll give you
The bubble guts.
Bubble.
The BGs.
The bubble. Hey.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Do you fry them, by the way? Do you fry them up, or what do you do with the morel?
That's how I grew up. I grew up frying them, you know, with a little flour. But Mike puts them in like butter and garlic and sautés them up.
Ooh, we had glazed carrots for Easter
you
as well.
did?
I'm surprised to hear you say that. Yes. All right, a special high five. We got to celebrate, and I don't want to run out of time. This is Legacy Jackson. She is I can't believe, a keynote speaker at a leadership Circle luncheon. I mean, for boys and girls, she's a published author. Okay,
Amazing.
She helps kids find their voices and build resilience with that book. 15 years old. That luncheon, by the way, coming up Wednesday from 11 to 1 p.m. High five, Legacy.
High five to her, and I'm going to
Wow.
see her. I'm going to.
Oh, yeah?
I'm going to be at that luncheon.
All right.
Yeah, I love it. I love to see it.
Keynote speaker. That'll be cool. She's really neat.
I know. And she was on this weekend with Mercedes and Travis.
It looked like she had been here.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. That's really, really cool. We had a good time today.
We did have a good time. We had some hard news to get through, you know.
That's
but
true.
We'll be
The
talking
Pope.
about Pope Francis for the next several days,
Mm.
a couple weeks, until
A
they
lot.
put that white smoke up in the air. You
That's
know?
right, which is fascinating.
Yeah,
Really
it is a
fascinating how they do it. And what a life he led.
Okay, well, I'm dreaming of morels right now.
Me too.
So
I'm
and
dreaming of
sunny
glazed
days.
carrots and then that dessert over there. And we are so glad to have you. We'll just keep dreaming. We'll just keep dreaming. Thanks so
Yeah.
much for joining us, and we'll be back tomorrow.